Dr. Jazz.
What can I do for you?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for taking the time. Appreciate it. I remember the first time I saw you here in my hometown, Maribor. You played with the Screaming Headless band, and everyone was just like, damn. And that's a long time ago. That's like 20 years ago already. So I think so. But
yeah, I still had hair.
A little, but you still do as well. So
yeah, well, I'm just, while I still have it, I'm going to have a little fun with it because seems to be going.
I'm also, anyway. But no, I just wanted to start this talk. I saw you played again recently with Calvin Weston and John Medeski. Mm-hmm. And Lunar Crush was one of the first records I actually bought when I started digging into jazz. And are you guys planning to record something again, or like
no, we have a new record coming out called Fire Jelly.
Oh, when is that?
We have some dates in November, hopefully. We're trying to think about how to release it. I mean, going with a record company, I don't know if it really makes sense. But it's scary. What is it? 12,000 streams a day that are released? I mean...
Yeah, it's a little bit unreal.
Jesus.
Yeah. But
funny story, we're calling we're going to call this Fire Jelly, because when we first recorded, the record company, they, thank you for supporting us, but they had really cheesy names. They're like, you should call this FM project, like the radio.
With the Gramavision, you mean, or no?
No, before it was sold to Gramavision. Gramavision.
Okay,
right.
Okay, yeah.
And like the radio, AM, FM, Fiuczynski, Medeski, get it. We were like, Or they were like, how about function junction? So instead of, and function was spelled with a K. You get it? So we said, well, actually, we want to call it Fire Jelly. And they were like, oh, no, that's terrible. No, I mean, that's just, I don't know. I mean, what's wrong with it? So then we said, oh, how about Lunar Crush? And they said, oh, okay.
Okay.
Why is Lunar Crush okay and Fire Jelly isn't? So this is called Fire Jelly.
Oh, there was a PR guy who was like, no, please, no Fire Jelly. That's
Fire. I mean, what did you think? Like a punk band or something?
But did you write new tunes? I mean, new music and Oh, fantastic.
Well, let's see. Well, there was Blues for Fusey's Mama, and so now there's going to be Blues for Fusey's Dada. We're covering, we're doing a microtonal version of Sun Song by Sun Ra.
Wow, okay.
And then the other ones are originals.
Fantastic.
Some of it microtonal.
Wow, okay. Looking forward to this. I mean, because it's been some time since you released something as a band leader, right? I mean, this is co-led, but still.
Yeah.
How come? I mean, I always loved your records, with every band or as a side. Like...
It's just so difficult, especially the microtonal stuff. It's a hard sell.
Yeah.
I mean, the industry is so hostile, and people don't want to hear this stuff. So I mean, COVID didn't help.
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah.
I mean, we've had this in the can for like 5 years or so.
Already? Wow, okay.
And when Georgian Microjams came out with Georgi Mikadzis, an incredible keyboard player from the Republic of Georgia, it came out February 2020, and it got buried. It got great reviews.
Yeah.
And actually Georgi won this kind of like German prize. Let me turn this off here. Yeah, a big award, but it got buried, and the industry doesn't go backwards, you know, once it's, and so the industry really didn't pick up until 2022. That's 2 years after. Nobody wants to hear about that.
Yeah, bizarre. I mean, yeah. I mean, good reviews don't help anymore, right? I noticed that. I mean, like, you get a record out and you get like amazing reviews and CD of the week or whatever, but it's just like, yeah, okay. I know that's the feeling I get.
Yeah, it's really more, I mean, I kind of think the music industry is following economics and societies. I mean, it's really, there are the few haves, and then there are the many have-nots.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. I mean, the income gap here in the States, it's like worse than it was 100 years ago or something like that. I mean, it's just astronomical. And then we wonder why people are angry, and, you know, we wonder why we have problems. You know, the music industry is kind of like that now.
Yeah.
You know, it's always, but now it's just worse.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I mean, my students, I mean, I don't even know what to think. I mean, when they enter the workforce, they're going to have to deal with the unholy trinity of like student loans, musical inflation, and illegal downloading.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not many are going to survive.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, teaching, that's hopefully one thing that helps all of us. And
yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of a joke at Berkeley, you know. I mean, some of the names that are teaching at Berkeley is just, and Berkeley is so big, sometimes I'm like, what? They're teaching here? I mean, the joke is, I mean, you know, Berkeley teachers are so great because of Berkeley? No, because there's no work.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
But it's different, right? I mean, when I saw you with the Torsos in Maribor in Slovenia, you toured really a lot, right? Back then in early 2000s. I mean, that was...
Yeah, we tried to get out there.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was, you know, it was always difficult. It was, you know, we made some money, but, you know, any money I made was put back into the next project. I mean...
Yeah. How come you decided already back then to make the Fusilicious Morsels label? I mean, because you basically went on your own quite early in the...
Well, my ex-wife, she was very engaged and supportive, and I mean, the record company thing is so predatory anyway. And so she thought, why don't we do it ourselves? I mean, in the end, it was too much.
Yeah, it's a lot of work, yeah.
But you gotta somehow get the message out there.
Yeah.
So...
the music was, I mean, you know, I think those records kind of fluctuated a lot in Europe, and when you sold them also on gigs and stuff like that, CDs, I mean, and so it's something. Yeah. But David, I wanted to ask you, you know, you have one of the most recognizable guitar styles the last 30 years, let's say, in what is this music that you do? I don't know. You know,
I don't know either.
Let's call it jazz, right? Or creative music, or but if we go a little bit back, when you were like a teenager, or what got you excited for this type of music? I mean, who were the first albums actually you bought, or first artists that you said like, shit, I want to go into this direction? You remember the moments? Or
the first time I noticed music was affecting me, there's two moments. One was at summer camp. I was like 4 or 5, and this rock band, they were like teenagers. They played, and I couldn't believe it. I was just like, and in hindsight, they were probably not that good. But just the energy they generated, I was stunned.
Mm-hmm.
And then my dad had a single, a vinyl 45 of George Harrison's My Sweet Lord. And I remember getting up early in the morning. I went to the basement, and I remember I didn't have shoes on, and my feet were cold. I was uncomfortable, but I couldn't stop listening to the record. I listened to it 10 times in a row, and I was actually questioning, why am I doing this? But each time the song came on, it just took me somewhere. Then, I had like lessons when I was 7 or 9 or something, like piano lessons. I didn't like it. I stopped. And when I was 13, my mother said, well, she later said she was thinking that she wanted me to be a well-rounded human being. She was kicking herself when I took music seriously. So I went through so at 13, we decided that I would pick the instrument and I would pick the teacher. I didn't want to go back to those lessons. I really hated it. And there are two things. One is I just went through my parents' record collection, and they had a lot of R&B and jazz and classical music. And, there's nothing like a great teacher. So when I was 14, there was something wrong with my guitar. And lucky for me, I had a friend, this guy, Eckhart Wienström. But he said, my older brother plays guitar. Why don't you bring it by? So his brother was 19. And he picked up my guitar. He kind of adjusted the neck a little bit and the bridge a little bit, set it up. Then he plugged it in. And just to make sure it was cool, he started playing some bebop lines, and I was hooked. And I started taking lessons. And I guess because he was closer in age, but it was just, I left every lesson with my head filled with music.
That's cool.
So that's where it all kind of started.
Did you then start going, through the usual path, like going through all the fusion guitarists? I mean, it was like, let's say, late 70s, McLaughlin was on the height, and
so for me, I kind of started with some rock stuff, don't even really remember. Then I got into, I think when I was 15, I was kind of a jazz snob. Lucky for me, unlike some other people, I outgrew that by the time I was 16. So it got harder and harder. So it went from jazz to jazz fusion. Yeah, it was like, McLaughlin. Yeah, I mean, there was some Schofield and McLaughlin, then Holdsworth.
Yeah.
Then Van Halen. Then I got into punk and some free stuff. I'm a huge I mean, Screaming Headless Torsos started as a punk rock and reggae band with an opera singer because I really liked the Bad Brains and I really loved Nita Hagen.
Wow. Okay, that's a nice combo. Yeah. Okay, makes sense actually. Yeah.
So, like, can I play something?
Sure.
Do you have to? You have to let me share. Can you let me share?
Let me see. What do you do?
You have to go to, I think, participants or.
Oh shit! One participant, multiple participants can share the time. Okay, I did it now. I think you can. Let's see.
Okay, cool. So this is kind of like. Oh, go away. Go away, Apple. Be quiet. No, wait a second. Are you still there?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, okay.
You're sharing the screen now, so.
So this is like the kind of opera punk that I was doing.
Wow, okay. What year is that?
This would be 1987.
87, okay, wow.
So that's the, I can send you this if you like.
Oh man, I would love to check it out actually. Jesus, you were way ahead of time. I mean, that's what, you know, bands like 5 years ago started to do, like combining everything. But okay.
Oh, I mean, it was almost kind of like a homework assignment. I mean, there was no class for it, but I did it when I was a student.
Wow, okay. That's quite crazy. Okay, it's like Mr. Bungle or whatever those guys later did also, you know,
a little bit. I know them a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. And where were you, like, in the mid-80s? Where were you located?
Boston.
Boston. You were at Berkeley studying, or no?
No, I was at New England Conservatory.
Okay.
Yeah, but I couldn't really find an opera singer there who wanted to scream on top of punk. So I found a rhythm section at Berkeley, and oddly, of all places, I found a singer at Harvard.
Wow. Okay.
She was an art major.
Wow. And this was never released, what you showed me now, or?
I mean, it's on Bandcamp.
Oh, okay. Okay, I'll check it out. Quite cool. I like it. The crazier, the better. I mean, that's cool, right? Yeah. When did you move to New York?
In 89.
89 already. Okay. How was that like? What was the main trigger for the move and the beginning?
You know, at first I was like, I'm not moving to New York. I can't hang there. It's too scary too. And you know, I saw the George Adams Don Pullen band.
Oh, sure.
You know, the rhythm section from Charles Mingus's Changes 1 and 2. Danny Richmond on drums. Yeah, and obviously not Mingus. God, I forgot his name on bass.
No, Cameron Brown was later, right? No.
Yes, Cameron Brown. Right, exactly. Right. Yeah. So I saw them at a club, and I played at the Lily Pad last night. There used to be the 1369 Club right in that same area.
Oh.
So the 1369 Club was pretty long. And, you know, the more expensive seats were up front, and then there was the band, and then there was the kitchen, and the restrooms were in the back. So I was like, what the hell is Don Pullen doing? Don Pullen was doing these back-of-the-hand cluster melodies. He's another one of my heroes. Him, Nina, and Eric Dolphy. I worship these people.
Oh, Eric Dolphy. I'm the biggest fan, man. Yeah.
So I went up front and looked, and, you know, the waitress came to try and shoo me away, and I said, I'm waiting for the bathroom. you know, bullshitting. And he was completely going off. He nicked his hand, like he broke the skin. So now the keys are turning red.
Shit.
And I thought, oh my God. So if everyone is like this in New York, yeah, I can't do this. No way. No way. So, but while I was at Berkeley, there was opportunities to play in New York. Now I'd been playing in Boston a lot, but I played in New York with Ben Porowski a couple times, and then out of that, I got a gig with Jack Walrath.
Oh, that's how he ended in his band. Okay.
And then out of that, I got a gig with Santi Debriano, and then with Billy Hart, and it just kept on going. And I was like, oh, okay, it's going to be like this. So I went down there. I struggled. You know, at one point I broke down and begged my dad for some bread.
Yeah, it's heavy, man. Yeah. But
you know, I played the hard. I played with this band Second Step. It's kind of like Ridgemount High. I don't know if you know that movie. It's like teenagers, and
no.
There's that famous scene where Sean Penn jumps out of his VW bus and he opens the door and it's all smoke. So this band, we were 10 people in the band, 10 people in the van.
Wow. Okay.
With a trailer. Everyone would toke up, and it was insane. 20 hours straight driving. You know, they would rotate drivers. First gig, like in Mississippi. I mean, just terrible, horrible. You know, we would quadruple up in rooms, not just double up in rooms, but there would be 2 people per bed.
Oh, man. That's...
And nobody wanted to share the bed with the bass player because he was a spooner. You know, he was living with his girlfriend. So, you know, if you woke up in the morning, you usually have like his arm around you, you know, and it's like, yeah, I can laugh now. That was not fun.
I can imagine, sure.
So I did all that stuff and, you know, somehow got by, started Torsos, played with Michel Ndegio cello.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, about how did you meet Michel? I mean, I love those records.
We had the same manager.
Ah, okay.
And I also kind of met her through the Black Rock Coalition.
Okay, yeah.
So it was just people on the scene. I had a couple of drummers, and then Jojo became the drummer, Jojo Mayer.
Yeah. Okay, I just wanted to ask you first, like, I have that record by Muhal, which I really love, Blue, Blue, Blue. Like, how did you end up?
Oh my
Muhal's
goodness.
band?
Oh, I totally fell on my face. There was a guy who couldn't play the stuff. So I forget who it was. There's this guy Fuse. You should get him. He can play anything. Oh my God! So I practiced the music, but this one tune it was actually just charts. I didn't realize it was double time. So we played through one thing, and it was not going well. And they played through another one. I was like, oh my! I didn't realize. So the second tune, you know, and now I'm looking like an idiot. So the third tune was a blues, and I was literally feeling it. So I went off, and Muhal was like, "Oh, you'll definitely be on this tune."
But did you also play gigs with him, or just the recording? I mean,
just the recording.
Just the recording.
I was just so young and green and clueless.
Interesting. But you know, you played with Billy Hart, and there's like your tune, that beautiful tune of yours, Melanos, I think it is.
Right. Oh yes, thank you. Yeah, Billy, I really owe Billy. He took me under his wing, gave me a chance. I really owe Billy Hart.
Yeah, and Ronald Shannon. I mean, you played with amazing drummers in the beginning already, right? Coming to New York.
Wow. So I auditioned for Ronald Shannon Jackson. So Ronald had his rehearsal space in the Music Building in New York, which was on 38th or something and 8th Avenue. A freaking dark place. I mean, you know, you would have like 3 heavy metal bands next to each other. You know, the door, even with the doors closed, it was just like, you know, it's just like, how can you? It's just such a bad, small rooms. So I went into his room, and he rented. He somehow had a double. So imagine like all these shitty like rehearsal spaces, because I had jammed with other people there in other places, and I went into his room, and it was like dark. It had like black curtains, and there were candles, and he was dressed in black. It was almost like visiting some like, you know, African priest. And so he said, "So, how long you been playing guitar?" And I said something like 16 years. And then he leaned in and said, "How long you been talking through the guitar?" And I thought about it, and I said, 8 years. And he said, Yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot about harmony from Billy Hart. I learned a lot about melody from Ronald Shannon Jackson.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, those are the greats, right? Yeah, Billy's still playing, but yeah, amazing. Like, how did you write the tune?
Melanos?
Yeah. I mean, when did you start writing, actually? I mean, if I even extend the
Well,
question.
you know, my nickname is Fuse, and I guess I was always meant to fuse things. I mean, my mother was black from South Carolina. My father was German from Berlin. And I noticed early on, I just had a different listening experience than other people. Like, early on, I was just, when I was a teenager, I was like, oh, okay. So if we take this melody from, you know, like a classical melody from here, and we take these harmonies from this record and this groove over here, what could happen? You know, I was always interested in mixing things just naturally. I mean, when I was 19, I wrote this like jazz arrangement for small band and opera voice of a section of Beethoven's First Symphony. I was actually kind of like, why am I doing this? You know, it's just for me, it's just, I guess I'm a product of my upbringing. I was really lucky that when I was 8, we moved to Germany, and my parents love to travel. Yeah. I think right now that's one of the big problems in the world. Like in the States, people are so ignorant. They don't, you know.
Yeah.
Yep. When I hear this wind up, oh, those Europeans, those socialists, I was like, do you know anything about these people? You mean the people who get up in the morning and get their kids to school, and then they bust their chops to provide a better life for their family, or at least hopefully for the future for their kids? You mean those people? The only difference between us and them is, and you know, these Western style democracies where they shift to the right in one place and to the left in another, just like us. The only difference is they speak a different language. They use their feet when they play football. and they don't tinker with their economies, and when it blows up, then pull down half, if not 3/4 of the world economy. That's the big difference. But that doesn't get a lot of traction here.
No, I bet not. Yeah.
But I was really lucky. You know, by the time I went to college, I had seen most of Western Europe, parts of North Africa, and traveling back to the States to see family.
Yeah.
You know, it just gives you a different perspective.
Definitely.
And I was always curious about mixing things. For me, I was kind of always interested in this groove sandwich, you know, melody from here, harmony from there, rhythm from somewhere else. Many experiments blew up.
Yeah.
But when it came together, it was kind of like the result was larger than the sum of the elements. So 1 + 1 + 1 would equal 5 or 7 or 13 or 59 or ideally 89 million, you know.
Yeah. That's
So that's
basically
always been
what the Torsos were, right?
Yeah.
You know,
So it started out with punk rock and reggae, and then it evolved into other things. And now there's this unbelievable singer, Debo Ray, that we've been working with. She can do everything I always wanted. She is unbelievable R&B. She loves rock. She likes to tunnel. You know what that is?
No. The growling, the stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
She sings opera. She studied that. She actually came to Berkeley and she wanted to write 20th century style atonal music. That's what she really wanted.
Well, okay.
And she has Haitian background. She's been checking out some African stuff. So it's just like, wow, this is awesome.
That's the perfect fit for you. Like Nina Hagen meets Eric Dolphy, like you said, and then throw some Don Pullen in between. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a Bad Brains gig.
Yeah, exactly. But no, you mentioned like 1 + 1 + 1 is 5 or 7, like, which is actually, I wanted to ask you, when I listen to you play and the tunes you write, there are many times really groovy stuff, but in odd meters, obviously. Like, how did you get comfortable in that? And
well, odd meters, that's another place I fell on my face. New England Conservatory is a great school. I went to a very experimental program, the third stream program. So it was the more free stuff and so forth. A lot of stuff by ear. I didn't have a solid like rhythmic training. So that came later. And then just playing in I taught myself how to feel 5/4, 7/4, and also 3/4 in different ways. Because naturally in the West, we can subdivide, let's say you have a James Brown groove. Bum boom bang, ba doo doo da 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 dang doo doo. It's very easy to go bum boom bang, ba doo doo da 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 da, or bum boom bang, ba doo doo da da da, bum boom bang, ba doo doo da da, or bum boom bang, ba doo doo da da. It always lines up. It doesn't work that way with odd time stuff.
Yeah.
So I went back and did the same thing. Let's say take 5. So I worked on feeling it as dun, 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 as on a fine grid, then a broken grid, dun, 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 and then over the bar line, dun, 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 dun. So that's the same thing, but that's something that had to be learned. And various bands did odd time stuff, and I used that system at times. Sometimes with more, sometimes with less success.
But it's when I listen to the Torsos, like, there's a lot of that, and it's
there's not that much odd time.
Oh, there is.
There's some stuff here and there.
Yeah, I mean, but it, and also, of course, I mean, the rhythm section helps so much. When I listen to Fima,
I've been lucky. I've had great players.
Yeah, like Gene and both Jojo, and I mean Fima. I love Fima's playing as well. Like it's so beautiful what he does. Like the foundation of the band, you know, like really.
Yeah, and Fima wouldn't really get credit for it. That's the first thing Gene said. He was like, "Oh, Fima's like the oil in the machine. He keeps everything flowing really smooth."
Yeah, because then you can go crazy, you know. Then the drummer can go really, obviously, with you or with the soloist, or you know, it's so cool. Yeah. And another question is like your interest in microtonality. When did that start for you? I mean, and why?
In college, I started checking out world music, and I heard this Arabic melody, and I was like, wow, this is incredible. So I tried to play it on guitar, and I was like, ew.
Yeah.
I was like, well, they have a bunch of notes that we don't have. Why can't I find the notes? So then I realized if I really wanted to play this stuff, I had to go fretless. And again, I don't know why. The only thing I can explain is this kind of Silk Road continuum, but I really got turned on by Middle Eastern, specifically Turkish music, Indian, and East Asian. And if you really want to play it, it's microtonal. I mean, there's so many great bands, you know, especially I mean, I started playing with Hasidic New Wave because I just, not specifically because I was looking for Jewish or klezmer, but they were the only band who would have me and let me do whatever I wanted. And they did a lot of Eastern European and Middle Eastern melodies, and you know, the inflections are similar. And there's many great bands, but they seem to default more towards rhythmic stuff and play 12-tone.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be very careful here. I think Tigran is absolutely amazing. I'd like to hear, you know, the microtonal side of his heritage.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that with his rhythms?
With
that
his
would
rhythms,
be insane. Absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are the things. So that's how I got started. And
where did you get your fretless guitar back then? I mean, because back then that was still, even now it's not basically frequent.
I had one. As the first one, I just brought it to luthiers and repair people, and they would take the frets out and fill it in and then sand it down. And the first one, I can't remember. I only can remember that it got stolen. Like Jojo was my roommate, and we got broken into.
Oh shit, man. Okay.
So both I and Adam Rogers had back then this Boogie Mark III, which is small but really heavy. He got broken into too.
Really?
It's each time it was the same situation. The amp was moved like half a foot because they picked it up and they're like, "Oh no, can't run with this." But they stole my fretless guitar, and they must have been pretty disappointed because you can't flip that.
No.
You'll be like, "Hey, there's something wrong here."
Exactly.
So yeah, I had, and then I was on a gig, and I would switch, you know, a fretless tune, a fretted tune, and there was one tune where I thought, wow, the melody sounds great on one, but then the bridge sounds great on the other, and I was trying to switch back and forth in the same tune, and then there was a moment of like, what if I had them in the same guitar?
Mm.
'Cause I was a big, McLaughlin fan, Mahavishnu, and and Jimmy Page. I saw those double necks.
Yeah.
I tried them, but I had no interest. It's like 12 string. You're carrying a lot of extra weight just to go shot-a-lottle,
Yeah, exactly.
But then I thought, So then I started, having these double necks made
Mm.
with more, sometimes less success.
Yeah, I love that. I remember seeing you with Victor Bailey in Ljubljana, and I think you had the double neck with you.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
it was like, man, it sounded so cool because especially in that music, which was quite surprising. Like, what, really? So cool. Really, I love that.
Yeah, in hindsight, there were times where, I was excited about it. I brought it in on everything, and I think in hindsight, maybe that wasn't always the best musical decision.
I don't know. I love the unpredictable element. I mean, that's what makes it interesting in the end. I think. I don't know. Otherwise, it's cliches, so which is to expect it, I guess. I don't know. But yeah. So I wanted to ask you also this. Like, I watched today the thing you did with Jack DeJohnette, and what's your story with Jack and playing with him in that project and your experience with him?
Do you mean the
Jack Johnson thing?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So with him, there were three things. It was the Jack Johnson thing, then his band. Then he also played on micro jazz with Philip Gerschlauer.
Oh, okay.
Don Byron was getting married and asked Fima to put a band together. And he was like, dude, at first just play some standards, but then you can do whatever you want. So on this one tune there was an opportunity to do kind of an Eastern intro. So I did that, and Jack was there. I mean, it was intimidating. It was like playing for, it was a loose atmosphere, but still, Jack DeJohnette, come on. So I did that, and then Jack came up to me. He was like, man, I want you to be in my band. I was like, oh, okay. So the Jack Johnson stuff, there's this English producer who got some kind of statute ran out. So where I think something becomes public domain.
Mm-hmm.
So he got hold of the tracks for the Jack Johnson documentary. And so then asked Jack, hey, what if you did a tour improvising and also playing the music score live and improvising? And it's like, wow, Jack was like improvising to these fight scenes. It's absolutely astounding, So we all had these monitors, we worked stuff out. There were specific cues in certain places, but then there was certain things where it was improvised. And sometimes Jack was playing over some of the tracks he had recorded like 40 years earlier or something.
Oh, wow.
Like that.
That's amazing.
So,
but it was never released, right? I mean, as an album, didn't make sense because it was so much visual connection.
Yeah. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
And then I played in his band, and that never went to recording either. That was
when was that?
Like 2008, 9 or something like that.
Already. Okay. Quite some time ago. Wow. Oh, that's a
or
shame.
2010.
Yeah.
There was like a year or so of doing the Jack Johnson thing, and then a year or two doing a quintet.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's Jack, it's one of the greats. Amazing that you got to play with him, and
Yeah, I have to tell you, Jack is maybe one of the most melodic players among many other things that I ever played. And I'm not talking about when he's playing piano, he's playing drums. It's just like There's a funny story from the micro jazz recording. I booked 4 days in the studio because I knew, Jack is amazing, but he needs to feel, he needs space. And Philip and I, we were fundraising for like a year and a half. At every turn, we thought this is not going to happen. And somehow we got the money, and somehow this. And Jack was very nice. He gave us a break on his fee, and he also helped us with the studio. Jack is just, he's really, it's rare when you meet somebody at that level and you also realize, if this guy never played drums, I'd be thrilled to have him as a friend. Just a friend. That's the kind of human being he is. It's just a total role model. So, and I know Jack, so there was so much work, so much stress. And so Jack comes in and Philip meets him and says, "Oh, Jack, did you work on the music?" And Jack was like, "I listened to it." And so that kind of made Philip nervous. And we're sound checking and stuff, going through the tunes. And I know Jack, he's just flushing things out just to see what works, what doesn't. Halfway through the first day, Philip is like, "Oh, is this normal? I know Jack is a great drummer, but he didn't work on the music." I said, "Listen, instead of 4 days, we could book 4 hours with some incredible player from New York. But just give Jack space, let him." And, the next day, the magic started coming in. Like one tune was a ballad. And he said, "Oh, let me try something." And he's like, boom, boom, tick, tick. And so he kind of played this groove that was kind of in and out of time. But the entire tune, he's totally out of time with us.
That's fantastic.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The tune would have been just a normal ballad. Jack would have sounded, but he brought something that I think probably no one else would have thought of. Halfway through the second day, Philip comes up to me and said, "Oh, so that thing we just discussed yesterday. Forget about it. Forget it."
Yeah, you did the right thing.
That was a great experience
to have 4 days. There are many of those Jack DeJohnette, Dave Holland CDs out there when someone booked them in mid-80s and they record it in 5 hours, and it's like, it's okay, but like you said, if he had more time just to to get the flow and the vibe and the energy, I think
I can't speak for that. I just I worked with him, and
exactly.
And the music was so new. 128 notes per octave. I'm a microtonal nut job, but 100 and unequal tempered.
That's heavy.
So if it was like, even for Philip, and most of it was his music still. This was like being a microtonal Captain Kirk on Star Trek, going where no man had gone before. Yeah, no shit.
Oh man, yeah, I can only imagine. This is like a different universe. So, but crazy, man. Dave, not to take too much of your time, I just wanted to ask you.
I've got plenty of time.
Then I would like to ask you also.
I've got you booked. I've got nothing happening today. I'm just totally chilling. So you're my only thing on the agenda.
Okay, but no, like you also had like this Hiromi experience. How was that like for you? Because I was like, back then I was like, oh man, he's playing on those records. How did you end up on those records?
Well, when I got to Berkeley, pretty quickly I started jamming with students.
Okay.
Because when you get older, we're kind of all in the same space. We have houses and spouses and kids and cars and responsibility. There's not a lot of jam time.
Yeah.
And I started to realize that Berkeley is everything I needed, because Berkeley attracts players from all over the world. And I wanted to learn about microtonality and all sorts of world music stuff. And you talk to somebody and they're like, oh, I'm an R&B singer. But you scratch at the surface, it's like, oh, this Japanese person is a shamisen and koto player. Oh, this piano player is actually his primary thing. He's like a Greek oud player. And then there was a Turkish fretless guitar player. So I was joking for a minute. I don't know how the education is for Berkeley, but for the students, it's freaking great for me. So, but when you get older, there's not a lot of jam time, and but you have these, high level young players who want to try all this stuff. I mean, I had a faculty concert, and then I just asked my students, who, and the usual suspects came up, and her name kept coming up. So she played on a faculty concert of mine. And then when she was looking for, her trio thing was blowing up, but she wanted to add somebody. So she was thinking about guitar or horn. So I gave it a shot.
Yeah, it's a nice combo. Those records, Time Control, and what is it? I forgot the names, but yeah, beautiful stuff.
Oh, cool! Thank you.
Yeah, nice. But otherwise, what's still on the new record is coming out with John Medeski, right? And do you have some plans coming to Europe, or I mean, what are your still plans for the remainder of the year?
I mean, John is so busy; it's really up to him. Calvin and I we wanted to do this in February, but he's so busy. So he's the one in control. He's calling the shots. So hopefully,
yeah.
I have no idea.
What about yourself? Do you still have some other stuff going on, projects?
I have Chinese micro jams, Mid East micro jams in the can. I need to finish these records. There's new Screaming Headless Torsos stuff that I need to document.
Oh, seriously? Oh, wow.
Yes, it's just that, this stuff takes money, it takes time.
Yeah.
I've been off the scene, and to a lot of promoters, I don't exist anymore. And I mean, Hiromi asked me to be, I could be on the road with Hiromi right now. She asked me to be in the band. The problem is that would block out 2 years. Combining that with teaching, I would have no time for anything else. And there were other issues too, COVID, family.
Yeah, sure.
And I mean, this is the stuff I really want to do. I mean, I'm going to be 60 next year. Now's the time to really do the things I really want to do, and this microtonal groove jam stuff is, I mean, I kind of view myself as an audience. I may only be one person, but if I'm going to take time out of my schedule and money out of my pocket, you go to a club, I mean, you're going to drop $50, $80,
Yeah, sure.
Driving there, parking, fee, drinks, maybe food. What would I want to see? And I'm doing this because it doesn't exist. This is the music I would want to see.
Yeah. Did you ever come to Europe with this project? No, right?
With Fire Jelly?
No, with microjams, these things that you're doing, that you're mentioning.
A tiny bit, but it's just, it was so difficult, and the turnout was so slow. We did some stuff in Berlin with Philip, some stuff in the Republic of Georgia with Georgi Mikadze. Yeah, I'll keep trying, but it's like, It's like going to war.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah,
I remember when I was a student and studying with George Russell. You know the guy who wrote the Lydian chromatic concepts.
Yeah.
You know, we were so young, so green, so clueless, and we really worshipped him. And he said he would talk like this: "I can't be here next week because I'm gonna play in New York with the band." And we were like, "Oh, wow!" So 2 weeks he came back, and we were like, "Oh, George, how was it? How was it?" And he was annoyed. He was like, "It's like New York Nam." Like Vietnam, but New York, it's like New York Nam. I mean, it's brutal.
Yeah,
it's really hard.
Yeah, it's heavy. You have to invest to put a tour together. So much time. I mean, I had a 17-day tour last year.
Wow!
It took me 1 year of emailing, a lot of emailing, just to get the shit together. Like really, like. I was so sick, I couldn't look at my computer then for like, you know.
You got sick. I did this thing in Ecuador. It took so much work. I got really sick afterwards. I thought I had COVID, but it was just and it wasn't just my body, it was my mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, it's hard doing business. You know, the people at Berkeley, when they leave an administrative job and they go back to teaching, they're all smiling. It's like, you almost don't even recognize those people. I know one guy, he was a real tough cookie. He could really. And then one day I see him walking down the street. He's like, I said, "Is this your first day of teaching?" He's like, "Yep." Business is hard. Yeah. And there's some people who are really talented administrators.
Sure.
I envy them. It's definitely not me.
Yeah, no, it's heavy. It's heavy. It's especially after COVID, I think it's gotten even harder to get gigs together and tours. And
the governments have bailed everybody out. And when it comes to the music industry, like clubs and so forth, they've bailed everybody out except for us, the content creators.
Yeah, exactly. That's nicely put, the content creators. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. I guess, you keep doing it because you love doing it. I mean, in the end. So the music, I mean, at least that. Not the emailing and the administration. But yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of stuff do you do?